Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer. Today we're going to take a look at Lies Beneath VR, an Oculus Store exclusive. I played this on both the Oculus Quest 2 and the Oculus Rift. Lies Beneath is a VR horror shooter that is full of atmosphere. We don't have many good horror shooters in VR. Lies Beneath is the cream of the crop. Lies Beneath was released March 31st, 2020 by developer Drifter. It normally retails for 30 bucks. I actually bought it on sale, 24 bucks, and I just didn't realize how good this game is. There were some negative reviews that made me a little apprehensive about buying it. And I will agree that as far as a shooter, this is not one of the best shooters if you're just looking at this as a shooter. However, as a horror game, as a horror survival shooter, it absolutely excels, and very few games get the atmosphere, get the pacing, just get the bleariness, the eerie darkness, the whole despair correctly. And it can be absolutely suffocating playing this game. If you're not ready for a challenge, this game will beat you up, chew you out, and you will quit. It's not a surprise when I looked at the achievements and I saw who had gotten the hard achievement for completing this game. It said 0.1% of players. Yeah, this game is tough, but once you learn some of the mechanics, what works, what doesn't, it's actually not that difficult, but it will challenge you. It will test your reflexes, it'll test your brains, and just being able to look at the environment, look at what type of enemies there are, and quickly decide what you need to do and execute your game plan accordingly. I strongly advise to make sure the difficulty is at least on normal to get the most out of this game, especially if you love a challenge. But even on casual, this might be too difficult for casual gamers, but I suggest to at least try normal. And as long as you just carefully analyze the situation, it becomes a lot much easier. If you go in there without a plan though, you will die, and you will die often in this game. There is a mechanic that helps you out with the shooting. You can have a lighter, and the lighter actually is almost like an auto aim, so it really isn't a test of how good your aim is. Sure, you have to be quick sometimes on the draw. You have to be vigilant about where enemies might be, and also take a careful look at the layout of the map. And you also have to figure out what is best in your hands at that moment, and also change what you might have on your hands if the situation warrants it. So you just have to be thinking, cautious, and just be able to respond appropriately to the challenge of this game. But as long as you do that, it's really not that difficult. There's also a story going on here. I don't want to give out spoilers, so I'm not going to talk too much about the story. However, I did enjoy the story. It did not detract at all from the gameplay. But obviously the star of this game is the gameplay. It's just definitely a shooter first, a survival shooter first, and the story is secondary. However, despite that, the story is enjoyable. It does give a nice pacing to the gameplay. You may have some action-heavy moments, some very tense moments, and then you get a bit of story, and even the story itself is very dark and very eerie. It definitely gets you thinking, makes you wonder what kind of darkness lies ahead. So in that way, the story does work. And although there's not much in the way of voice acting or whatnot, the little comic strip tiles where you read snippets of what's going on and the mystery of why you're here, and it all just comes together to make for a very good horror experience. And it's not just the story and the gameplay, the sounds of this game. The sounds are so good in this game. I don't really talk about sound work in my videos because a lot of times in VR it's just forgettable. Here the sound is really good. There's a lot of creepy sounds all around, and those sounds just do a great job of adding tension to the gameplay, to the shooting mechanics, to the survival aspects, to the story. Probably the scariest sound, at least to me personally, came to be the sound of the cracking ice beneath your feet. I came to be terrified by that sound, but that was not the only creepy sound. You'll have to play the game for yourself to figure out what some of the other terrifying sounds in this game are. While we're talking about sound, I also want to talk about the music in this game. It's just excellent. It really makes the mood all that more terrifying, and it's done perfectly to great effect in this game. This is how I wish every VR game had a music soundtrack to it. One that really improves the gameplay with soft sounds at the right moments, and then just loud and really horrifying music at all the right moments to really give you that mood of pure terror. Lies Beneath is running on the Unreal Engine. I tested this game out on both the Oculus Quest 2 and the Oculus Rift. I really didn't notice much difference between the two, and I think that's because of the art style in this game. It doesn't obviously have the highest polygon count, but the art style really goes well with the aesthetic the developer was going for. So we have like a horror comic book style, and it just really works throughout. And you might think this art style really isn't conducive to horror, but it really is. There are several terrifying scenes in this game. I don't scare easily, and I wasn't like screaming like a little baby or anything like that, but I was definitely feeling the effects of horror done right. The heart just beating a little bit faster, you start breathing a little bit faster, your mental ability just focuses in all that much better. Yeah, this is horror done right, and I really enjoyed playing this game. This game, I'm gonna estimate, took me about 7 hours to complete, maybe 8, and I had fun throughout. It was a challenge. There were several sections that I had to do multiple attempts to get past, so a lot of the game time for this is just redoing certain sections. I mean, it is possible to possibly finish this game in 6 hours, but I would estimate most people will take the 7 to at least 8 hours to beat this game on at normal. If you do hard, you might even take longer. And it was a blast to play throughout. It did horror survival correct. It's not quite Resident Evil. It doesn't have to be. It's just a different type of horror survival, and it works perfectly in VR. It's the first horror survival game in VR that I think has been done correctly. Those of you who follow my channel know that I often complain about lighting in VR and how games are too dark. Now, I will agree that there are certain sections of this game that are too dark. However, I'm going to say that in this game, it's done to great effect. Some other VR games are just too dark just because they're ugly. They're ugly to look at, and that's just one way to stop looking at the low res models, the bland textures. Not so in this game. In this game, when it's too dark, it's for a reason, and you have limited view, and the gameplay is tailored for that. So in this game, it's done correctly, and you have well lighted areas, and you have areas that are really dark, but there's a reason for it. So great job, devs, on the lighting for this game. There's actually a thought process behind it. So I did love this game, and I highly recommend it, but I did notice a few flaws it has. Probably the biggest flaw is just some of the minor bugs that I experienced. There were some strange physics at times where the weapons just flew off seemingly to nowhere, or items not appearing as they should have. But I really didn't experience any game-breaking bugs or anything that would have detracted from my overall enjoyment of the game. There were just some minor annoyances from those minor bugs in this game. I think the physics could have been done better. If you notice when you're chopping the wood, it always breaks like in the same way. But it works perfect for this comic book style, so I'm really not going to knock it down for that. You know, we don't always need sandbox physics or perfect realistic physics in VR to still get that immersion from gameplay, and I think this game gets that right, you know? As long as it's done well and it's more polished than not, I think the physics is not a big deal, and I still enjoyed this game. There were several very terrifying moments when I played this game. So I love this game and I highly recommend it, especially if you are a horror fan. You know, if you like Resident Evil or that type of gameplay, this is a different take on that, but it works great in VR. If I have to rate Lies Beneath, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. And that is one of the highest scores I have ever given a game. This would definitely be in my top 10 games of 2020 for sure. It definitely should be in consideration for VR Game of the Year. Anyways, I am Fast Lawyer. If you enjoyed my review, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And oh, by the way, the reason this video is so long is because I couldn't decide what to cut out. There was so much good gameplay that I wanted to show off in this game, and that just tells you how much I enjoyed this game. Anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. Enjoy the extended gameplay. Have a wonderful day, and happy Halloween week. Goodbye.
いない。急げやった。いべ、うと